The Krill'garr Empire stretched across 5 solar systems, a testament to their relentless drive and unwavering devotion to the principles of fear. Every aspect of Krill'garr society, from their towering obsidian cities to their meticulously structured military, was built upon the bedrock of terror. Fear of failure, fear of weakness, fear of the High Council. It was the lifeblood that coursed through their chitinous veins. Their warships, shaped like colossal bioluminescent predators, patrolled the starways, their very presence designed to instill dread. Krill'garr science was dedicated to understanding, harnessing, and weaponizing fear. Their penal colonies were not places of rehabilitation, but elaborate exercises in psychological torment, meticulously designed to break the spirit of any who dared defy the Empire. The High Council chamber was a cavernous space, dimly lit by pulsating energy crystals that cast long, unsettling shadows. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and the low hum of advanced technology. Here the Krill'garr High Council, a body of 7 ancient and formidable beings, presided over the destiny of their race. Their carapaces were adorned with intricate markings that signified their status and experience in the art of fear. It was here, in this imposing chamber, that Jenkins found himself. Jenkins, a human male of unremarkable stature and even more unremarkable attire, faded jeans, a slightly too small t-shirt bearing a picture of a cat riding a unicorn, and well-worn sneakers, stood before the High Council. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, seemingly unfazed by the oppressive atmosphere and the piercing gazes of the Krill'garr dignitaries. He scratched his beard, a tangled mess of brown hair that seemed to defy gravity. He'd been acquired, let's say, during a Krill'garr scouting mission to a remote sector of the galaxy. Earth apparently wasn't as well charted as they thought. Jenkins himself had been enjoying a quiet afternoon of amateur astronomy in his backyard when the Krill'garr landing party, mistaking his telescope for some kind of weapon, had swiftly and efficiently abducted him. The Krill'garr were fascinated, and more than a little disturbed, by humans. Their initial scans revealed a species riddled with anxieties, insecurities, and irrational phobias, a veritable goldmine of fear. Yet this particular human, Jenkins, displayed an unsettling lack of the expected responses. Human Jenkins, Counselor Zorgan, the foremost expert on interspecies psychology, intoned, his voice a deep, resonant rumble that echoed through the chamber. "You have been brought before the High Council for evaluation. Your species exhibits anomalies that require further study." Jenkins blinked. Anomalies? Is that like a weird rash? Should I have gotten that checked out before I left Earth? He paused. "Wait, do you guys have doctors? Are they any good? My HMO back home was a nightmare." The High Council exchanged confused glances. This was not the reaction they anticipated. Fear, apprehension, perhaps even a desperate plea for mercy. These were the responses they expected. Not medical inquiries. "Your medical condition is irrelevant," Counselor Zorgan said, struggling to maintain his composure. "We are interested in your psychological state, specifically your capacity for fear." Jenkins shrugged. "Fear? Sure, I get scared sometimes, like when I think I've run out of coffee, or when I'm doing my taxes." He chuckled softly. "But No, nothing too serious." The Krill'garr scientists scribbled furiously on their data pads. This was unusual, highly unusual. Could it be a defense mechanism? A form of denial? Or something far more sinister? Thus began the Krill'garr Empire's most perplexing experiment, to understand and ultimately weaponize the apparent fearlessness of a seemingly ordinary human named Jenkins. Little did they know, they were about to unravel a mystery that would challenge the very foundations of their society, all thanks to a misplaced telescope and a human with a peculiar fondness for cats and coffee. The first test involved a simulated encounter with a Grocknar beast, a creature from Krill'garr mythology, known for its razor-sharp claws, acidic saliva, and insatiable hunger. Jenkins was placed in a virtual reality chamber, the walls shimmering, as the Krill'garr beast materialized before him, roaring menacingly. The Krill'garr scientists monitored his vital signs, anticipating a surge of adrenaline, a spike in heart rate, signs of abject terror. Instead, Jenkins yawned. "Is that it?" he asked, his voice echoing slightly in the chamber. "Looks kinda like a fluffy dog with bad teeth. Does it bite?" He reached out a hand, as if to pet the virtual beast. The Krill'garr beast, confused by this unexpected gesture, paused in its simulated attack. "Human Jenkins, do not attempt to engage the Krill'garr beast." Counselor Zorgan's voice boomed through the chamber speakers, a hint of exasperation creeping into his tone. "It is programmed to induce maximum fear. You are expected to exhibit fear." Jenkins retracted his hand. "Right, sorry. So, should I be screaming or something? Is there like a fear quota I need to meet?" The scientists exchanged bewildered glances. They adjusted the simulation parameters, increasing the Krill'garr beast's size, sharpening its claws, and amplifying its roar. The beast lunged again, its virtual jaws snapping inches from Jenkins' face. Jenkins remained unfazed. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "for a mythical creature, it's got really bad breath." Next came the interrogation. 2 Krill'garr inquisitors, their carapaces polished to a mirror sheen, their eyes glinting with cold calculation, questioned Jenkins about his past, his motivations, his deepest fears. They employed a variety of psychological techniques designed to break down his defenses to expose his vulnerabilities. "Human Jenkins, what is your greatest regret?" Inquisitor Vrax droned, his voice devoid of emotion. Jenkins considered the question for a moment, tapping his chin. "Probably that time I accidentally deleted my entire collection of vintage arcade games. I had a near-complete set of ROMs, you know?" Inquisitor Zorgan, his mandibles twitching in frustration, pressed on. "What is the thing you fear most? The darkness? Isolation? The inevitable heat death of the universe?" Jenkins shrugged. "Spiders, maybe? And telemarketers. Those guys are relentless." The Inquisitors exchanged frustrated glances. This human was proving remarkably resistant to their techniques. They moved on to physical tests. Jenkins was subjected to extreme temperatures, deafening noises, disorienting gravitational forces. He was confined in small spaces, forced to navigate treacherous obstacle courses, and exposed to holographic illusions designed to trigger his deepest phobias. Through it all, Jenkins remained remarkably nonchalant. He complained about the heat, grumbled about the noise, and occasionally offered sarcastic commentary on the absurdity of the challenges. "Is this supposed to be scary?" he asked as he navigated a maze filled with holographic clowns. "Because honestly, it's just kind of annoying." The Krill'garr leadership convened in private, their unease growing with each failed test. "This human," Counselor Zorgan declared, "is an enigma. His lack of fear is unnatural. It defies all logic." "Perhaps," suggested Counselor Rix, a wizened elder known for his unorthodox theories, "he is simply stupid, incapable of comprehending the danger he faces." Counselor Zorgan dismissed the suggestion with a wave of his appendage. "Unlikely. His responses, while unconventional, indicate a certain level of intelligence. He is not stupid, merely different." The debate raged on, the Krill'garr scientists and military leaders growing increasingly frustrated. They had encountered countless species in their long history, but none had ever reacted to their fear-inducing tactics with such blatant indifference. Was Jenkins truly fearless, or was he hiding something? And if so, what? The High Council of the Krill'garr Empire buzzed with a nervous energy. Jenkins' continued lack of fear was becoming a galactic embarrassment. Whispers circulated among the Krill'garr elite. Was this human a spy? A warrior from a secret, fearless civilization? Or perhaps most disturbingly, was he simply mocking them? Counselor Zorgan, his carapace gleaming under the harsh lights of the chamber, addressed the assembly. "This Jenkins," he began, his voice a low rumble, "presents a unique challenge. His defiance of our fear protocols cannot be ignored. We must consider all possibilities, no matter how unsettling. Meanwhile, Jenkins, oblivious to the turmoil he was causing, was busy exploring the Krill'garr observation deck. He poked at control panels, peered through viewing screens, and generally made a nuisance of himself. "So," he said to a nearby Krill'garr technician, "what does this button do?" The technician, a young Krill'garr named Glar, stammered nervously. "Human Jenkins, please refrain from touching the equipment. These are sensitive instruments. They, monitor fear responses." Jenkins grinned. "Fear responses, huh? Like a fearometer? Can it measure how scared you are of me right now?" Glar's mandibles twitched. "I am not scared," he insisted, though his voice wavered slightly. The Krill'garr, being a species deeply entrenched in ritual and protocol, had very specific customs regarding rank and deference. Unfortunately, Jenkins seemed determined to violate every single one of them. During a formal dinner with the High Council, he mistook the ceremonial algae paste for guacamole and proceeded to slather it on his nutrient wafers. "This stuff is pretty good," he declared, munching loudly. "A little heavy on the seaweed, but it's got a nice kick. You guys should try adding some, I don't know, maybe some chili peppers." The council members exchanged horrified glances. The algae paste was a sacred symbol of Krill'garr dominance, not to be consumed casually, let alone flavored with chili peppers. Later that week, during a military demonstration showcasing the Krill'garr's advanced weaponry, Jenkins interrupted the proceedings to ask a question. "Hey, General," he called out, waving his hand. "That laser cannon thingy? Does it come in blue? Because, blue lasers are way cooler." General Vorlag, a hardened veteran with countless battles under his carapace, sputtered in disbelief. "Cooler?" he repeated, his voice rising in indignation. "This is a weapon of mass destruction, human. It is designed to instill fear and obliterate our enemies. It is not meant to be aesthetically pleasing." Jenkins shrugged. "Just a thought. Marketing. Gotta appeal to the kids." The incidents continued, each one more bizarre and disrespectful than the last. Jenkins wore a ceremonial Krill'garr helmet as a hat, used a high-ranking official's carapace as a footrest, and even attempted to teach the Krill'garr soldiers how to do the Macarena. The Krill'garr were baffled, outraged, and perhaps just a little bit intrigued. Counselor Rix, the elder known for his unorthodox theories, watched Jenkins' antics with growing fascination. "Perhaps," he mused, "this human is not fearless, but simply unbound, free from the constraints of our rigid society. Perhaps he sees the absurdity of it all." Counselor Zorgan, however, remained unconvinced. "He is a threat," he insisted. "His behavior is disruptive, disrespectful, and unpredictable. We must determine his true intentions before he undermines the very foundations of our empire." The Krill'garr, a species built on fear and control, were beginning to fear the one thing they couldn't control: a human named Jenkins who didn't seem to be afraid of anything. The Krill'garr, at their wits' end, decided there was only one course of action left: to unleash their ultimate weapon. It was a device so terrifying, so potent, that it was said to shatter the minds of even the bravest warriors. They wheeled it into the center of the observation chamber, a hulking monstrosity of wires, tubes, and pulsating energy fields. "Human Jenkins," Counselor Zorgan announced, his voice echoing through the room. "Behold, the Fear Inducer 5000. This device will reveal your deepest, darkest fears and break your spirit once and for all." Jenkins, who had been idly sketching in a notepad, looked up with mild interest. "Fear Inducer, huh? Sounds intense. Does it come with a warranty?" The Krill'garr scientists activated the machine. It whirred to life, bathing the room in an eerie green glow. The energy fields crackled and pulsed, and a low guttural hum filled the air. The Krill'garr watched with anticipation, their carapaces trembling slightly. This was it. This was the moment they would finally see Jenkins' true colors. But as the Fear Inducer 5000 reached full power, Jenkins simply blinked. He tilted his head, squinted at the machine, and then a slow grin spread across his face. "Wait a minute," he said, his eyes widening in recognition. "Is that a popcorn machine?" The Krill'garr were stunned. Counselor Zorgon sputtered. A what?" Jenkins walked towards the machine, peering at its various components. "Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a modified popcorn machine. I had one just like it back on Earth, only less menacing looking. You guys use this to scare people?" He reached out and tapped a large cylindrical container on the side of the machine. "Yep, definitely a kernel reservoir. And that's the heating element. You probably rerouted the ventilation system to create those scary energy fields, didn't you?" The Krill'garr scientists exchanged nervous glances. Jenkins was dismantling their ultimate weapon with his words, stripping away its mystique and revealing its utterly mundane core. Jenkins circled the machine one more time, shaking his head in amusement. "You know," he said, "this is actually kind of brilliant. I mean, who would suspect a popcorn machine of being a weapon of psychological warfare? Although, I gotta say, the popcorn it makes is probably terrible. Needs more butter." Counselor Zorgon's mandibles trembled. "Impossible," he screeched. This is the pinnacle of Krill'garr engineering. It is designed to evoke primal terror, not produce kernels of popped maize." But Jenkins was already fiddling with the controls, bypassing the fear-inducing modifications with practiced ease. "See, the problem is you've got the temperature all wrong," he explained, twirling a dial. "Too high and you'll just burn the popcorn. Gotta find that sweet spot for maximum fluffiness." With a final adjustment, he pressed a large, ominous-looking button. The machine sputtered, coughed, and then began to rumble to life. But instead of emitting waves of fear, it began popping popcorn. The smell of buttery, salty goodness filled the observation chamber, replacing the sterile scent of Krill'garr technology. Kernels exploded from the machine's spout, showering the room in a fluffy white blizzard. The Krill'garr recoiled in horror, their carapaces dusted with popcorn. Counselor Zorgon stared aghast as a single kernel landed in his open mouth. He chewed tentatively, his multifaceted eyes widening in surprise. What is this sensation?" he stammered. It's strangely pleasurable." Another Krill'garr scientist cautiously picked up a piece of popcorn and tasted it. His eyes lit up. "Indeed, it is. Delightful. A symphony of flavor and texture." Soon, the entire observation chamber was filled with the sound of Krill'garr munching on popcorn. They forgot all about fear, all about their rigid military protocols, all about Jenkins. They were simply enjoying the unexpected treat, their faces expressing a level of joy they had never known before. But as the Krill'garr indulged in their newfound addiction, the popcorn's unintended effects began to manifest. The sugar and carbohydrates sparked something primal in their brains, triggering a cascade of emotions they had long suppressed. They started to laugh. Giggles and snorts erupted from their usually stoic faces, growing into full-blown belly laughs that shook their armored bodies. Counselor Zorgon, tears streaming down his faceplates, clutched his abdomen. I can't stop," he wheezed between gasps. "What is this humor you humans speak of? It's utterly debilitating." Other Krill'garr began to dance awkwardly, their limbs flailing in uncontrolled movements. The rigid order of the Krill'garr Empire was crumbling before Jenkins's eyes, replaced by a scene of utter popcorn-fueled chaos. The Fear-Inducer 5000, weaponized to generate and instill abject horror, was instead producing an unstoppable wave of delight and mirth. It had become the Fun Generator 5000, and the Krill'garr had no defense against it. The implications of the popcorn incident rippled through the Krill'garr Empire faster than a swarm of bioengineered locusts. Having tasted joy, or at least a vaguely corn-flavored approximation of it, the Krill'garr found themselves strangely dissatisfied with their millennia-old culture of fear and oppression. Their battle cries started to sound a little less menacing, their parade formations a little less precise, and their interrogation techniques Well, let's just say a lot more popcorn was involved. The High Council, still reeling from their collective laughing fit, convened an emergency session. Debate raged for days, punctuated by the occasional nervous giggle. Some demanded Jenkins' immediate execution, citing the utter collapse of Krill'garr discipline. Others, however, argued that this joy thing might actually have some strategic value. Perhaps, they reasoned, a happy empire was a more productive empire. The turning point came during a routine military drill. Instead of launching a simulated attack on a neighboring planet, the Krill'garr soldiers found themselves spontaneously organizing a synchronized dance routine, set to the rhythmic popping of a hastily converted popcorn machine. The footage inevitably went viral across the galactic net. In the end, the Krill'garr Empire didn't collapse. It simply reformed. Fear remained a tool, but now it was tempered with the occasional water balloon fight, the mandatory karaoke session, and the ever-present scent of buttered popcorn. Crime rates plummeted, productivity soared. Apparently, happy Krill'garr were much better at interstellar logistics, and the Empire's fearsome reputation transformed into something approaching quirky. And what of Jenkins? He found himself, much to his amusement, a celebrity. The Krill'garr, desperate to understand this strange new world of positive emotion, offered him the newly created position of cultural ambassador. His duties primarily consisted of explaining Earth customs, demonstrating the proper use of bouncy castles, and ensuring a steady supply of high-quality popcorn. Jenkins accepted, of course. The pay was surprisingly good, the benefits were excellent, unlimited popcorn, and besides, someone had to teach these joy-deprived aliens how to properly enjoy a water balloon to the face. As he surveyed his new domain, a mischievous grin spread across his face. Well, he muttered to himself, time to introduce these guys to the wonders of the pie fight. Centuries passed. The Krill'garr Empire, once the terror of the Andromeda Galaxy, became different. Not necessarily better, but definitely different. The spiky, intimidating warships were now adorned with strings of brightly colored lights. Instead of weapons drills, Krill'garr soldiers practiced synchronized swimming routines, a skill deemed crucial for interspecies diplomatic relations, whatever that meant. Their homeworld, once a monument to grim efficiency, was now dotted with amusement parks. The centerpiece? A colossal bouncy castle large enough to house an entire Krill'garr legion. The admission fee was steep, but the experience of bouncing uncontrollably for hours surrounded by squealing Krill'garr was reportedly worth every credit. The Krill'garr military, never one to be outdone, began to develop weapons of mass amusement. Their top scientists, tasked with creating the most ridiculous device imaginable, proudly unveiled the Tickle Tank, a heavily armored vehicle equipped with a network of feather duster cannons. Initial field tests were inconclusive, but the resulting fits of helpless laughter were deemed strategically disarming. Galactic historians still debate the legacy of Jenkins. Was he a savior, a destroyer, or just a ridiculously lucky human with a penchant for popcorn and chaos? Whatever the truth, one thing is certain: the Krill'garr Empire would never be the same. And somewhere amongst the squeals of laughter and the scent of buttered popcorn, you could almost hear Jenkins chuckling, undoubtedly plotting his next ridiculous culture shock.